After studying this module, you shall be able to know the need to study population as a growing area of research, identify the major causes of population rise, effects of population challenge, understand the state of population and its effect on India, evaluate the approaches to deal with rising population. Population issues and introduction. At the heart of issue with population lies the concern about ways to balance needs of people and resources available. This need balance is also concerned with the outcome for future generations. The very thought of resources falling short of people on planet has troubled scientists from times of Aristotle and Confucius. As population grew across geographical regions and strife due to depletion of resources started, scientists had begun to associate famine, war and pestilence with burgeoning population. At the time when world population reached 450 million, Niccolo Machiavelli predicted, when every province of the world so teemed with inhabitants that they can neither subsist where they are nor remove themselves elsewhere, the world will purge itself in one or another of these three ways of floods, plague and famine. Each of the last world wars contributed to society by means of improvement in science and technology. Post the Second World War, the world population stood at 2,500 million. Medical science became available to developing countries, making a huge difference in the rate of population growth. Robert McNamara, then president of World Bank, said, "Short of nuclear war itself, population growth is the gravest issue the world faces. If we do not act, the problem will be solved by famine, riots, insurrections and wars." Effects of rising population. Wirth and Simmel advocated that high population density heightens emotional stress, which in turn affects people in their attitude towards other people, generating adverse social effect. Simmel went on to suggest constant exposure to other people in vicinity could be extremely stressful. To put in perspective, Psychology Dictionary defines population as the entire amount of people in a rendered geographical location. It also defines population density as the amount of individuals or other living beings per unit of space. Continuing on the hypothesis, Wirth and Simmel made urban populace who are more likely to be exposed to dense population adopt hostile attitude towards others to handle the stress. Wirth considered population size, population density and population heterogeneity to have profound consequences on people, suggesting that high urban density leads to increased sense of competition, irritation and loneliness. Milgram and Fisher reformulated Wirth and Simmel's hypothesis with greater precision, without taking away the initial suggestions. High population density engulfs people with thoughts of being crowded, causing violent reactions by inhabitants in comparison to people residing in not so populated places. Stockholm also suggested that there would be individuals suffering from anxiety and social withdrawal alongside tendencies for criminal acts. John Calhoun displayed these stress scenarios using rats. The experiment showed that rats keep on dense populace displayed violence, became territorial and aggressive, and few also turned cannibalistic. Straub. This is only reflective of the propositions made from earlier to be applicable, not necessarily in same intensity or same result. Population changes are largely brought about by prevailing migration natality and mortality rate. Natality rate is number of births per 1000 population per year, whereas mortality rate is number of deaths per 1000 population per year. Migration is immigration or immigration of people in a locally per area per country. Biodiversity decrease. People have destroyed natural habitats for fuel, cultivation, cattle, grazing and building materials. Through centuries, these activities have been damaging the ecosystem, but lower population allowed for compensation. In last century, though, the magnitude of damage being done is causing desertification, salinity, leanness and natural degeneration of flora and fauna. Just to put into perspective, one species went extinct each day in 1980s and every hour in 1990s. In another half century, we would have lost half of a species from planet, according to Liu. Forest reduction. Tropical forests, which occupy 1.935 billion hectares in 1980, had 45% of it severely damaged. According to statistics from Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO), the vanishing tropical forest amounted to 11.3 million hectares each year at a decreasing rate of 0.58% from 1981 to 1985 and 16.78 million hectares each year at a decreasing rate of 1.2% in 1990. From 1950 to 1980, over half of the forests in the world were destroyed. Forest reduction single-handedly is the single biggest loss to this planet, with devastating effect on life and its continuance. Tropical forests are lungs of world, and its disappearance is already affecting us by increase in greenhouse effects. Greenhouse effects. Industrial revolution started onset of greenhouse gases in atmosphere at large scale. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was about 280 parts per million and methane was 715 parts per billion. In 1958, carbon dioxide was 350 ppm but up to 379 ppm in 2005. Increased population requires fossil fuel, causes industrial emission and other toxic waste are adding to the emergent situation. Greenhouse induced consequences include abnormal climate such as the El Nino and La Nina phenomena, frequent crop diseases and pest infestations, declining farm productivity and frequent natural disasters such as flood, drought and extreme temperature changes. Greenhouse effect is rising temperature of this planet, and with each degree of rise, world is losing polar ice cap disappearance, receding glaciers in Himalayas, changing habitat for societies and fear of flooding in low-lying areas. Air pollution. Apart from greenhouse gases, there is variety of toxic and particulate matter being dispensed in air across the world as a result of deep industrialization. These gases and particulate matters is major cause of illness in many parts of the world. Concentration of suspended particles is such that increasingly very industrialized cities wake up to complete darkness. Water pollution. One of the most valuable natural resource for life on this planet is also the one most exploited, with ill effects already causing aggravation in many parts of the world. It is the potable water which is being used and abused with pesticides, industrial wastes and urban wastes for construction to levels where 10% of the world population faces chronic freshwater shortage. This figure may rise if the population growth is uncontrolled. As in the case of air pollution, the increasing population calls for increasing number of factories. These factories lead to various kinds of pollution, including water pollution. Energy crisis. As we grow in population, Our energy requirements are also scaling up. With traditional sources of energy drying up, our lifestyle stands threatened in absence of a viable, sustainable, renewable source of energy. With predictions that fossil fuel would not last another 50 years, the crisis is not far away from affecting the ways we live. Unemployment and illiteracy. Population also brings demands from people, demands for better life, to urban utilities, and at bottom of it lays job creation. We have already are short of resources, and providing quality education and jobs subsequently is providing to be bigger task for government across the world. Rise in unemployment also leads to unrest among people, leading to criminality, rioting, and other social effects which bring disharmony. Rapid industrialization and urbanization. Industrial revolution in Europe leads to similar approach across the world over the years. Today we stand deeply industrialized all over, which has its bane in causing population density to rise in urban centers and thereby becoming a population source. Across the world, cities along with the industries in and around have affected the environment adversely. The attraction of job and comforts lead to immigration, large number of which live in slums exposed to dangerous level of pollutants. Poverty, malnutrition and famine. Underdeveloped countries have also to face poverty and malnutrition with burgeoning population, causing unnatural deaths and sense of gloom. Production, especially of food crops, has not kept pace with population, leading to imbalance skewed against people who cannot afford to purchase food. The absence of necessities for basic survival can yield several consequences, including civil war, armed resistance, human trafficking, and a further divide between developed and developing countries. Another very important factor that we need to look into the context of population is its relation to consumption. As it is not the population alone, contrary to popular belief, it is also the uncontrolled consumption which is also leading to unprecedented chaos, socially as well as environmentally. Population issues in India. Population explosion can never be boom, but growing population serves countries like Spain and Italy well, which are experiencing decline in population. But the same does not apply to African region or countries like India and China. In countries like India, population explosion has led to deprivation and general imbalance in society, leading to societal unhappiness. With a general lack of resources, availability of it to individuals is increasingly becoming a difficult target to meet. Struggle for India has not slowed down, although it has experienced an unusually rate of growth since late 1990s. This is due to the population growth being way ahead of production growth. India has grown 4 times over the last century, one of the highest across the world. Large populace of India suffer from lack of various basic amenities, be it water, power, healthcare, education, housing, and many others. Compounded with rapid industrialization, it is witnessing societies which have extreme strata divide. These are potent grounds for criminality and unrest, apart from being exposed to various health issues. Rapid industrialization has also put burden of increased need for resources, which in turn affect countryside. 238.4 million in 1901, India became 1 billion in 2001. Almost all governance agendas are unable to reach out to millions living in countryside and even those who live in urban slums. India is classical case of effect population explosion can have in general well-being of a nation. Population growth and its consequences. Poverty. Poverty in India is primarily caused by high rate of population growth, which has been more of an explosion. Rate of population growth has not allowed formulation and reach of basic amenities to people at large. It has denied a possibility of education for all, or sanitation, or healthcare, all of which expose a huge population to endless daily life issues. In addition, rampant urbanization and industrialization has taken away natural resources and damaged ecology over large swath of land. In absence of planned future, people continue to have many children in hope of more income and add to the population. Migration. In absence of sustainability in countryside and over-exploitation of their resources by urban India, people from rural areas, immigration into urban centers in hope of better life. Though fate in city is worse than rural areas, with these people living in overcrowded slums in unhygienic and dangerously polluted environment. Cities in India are continually expanding across the nation. Once again, it is people living at outskirts that are the poorest and first settlers with no access to potable water, sanitation and even clean air. Overexploitation of natural resources. As mentioned earlier, with the growth in population, we are bound to provide amenities to aspiring young nation of people. Numerically, India requires many more power plants to provide power to one and all. It comes at cost of burning fossil fuel. Quest for minerals and resource has been rampaging countryside, forest and ocean beds, all to build up good level of energy supply system. Apart from these, India has become fourth largest economy owing to its massive industrialization, which too requires immense amount of resources. Exploitation of rivers to supply water to cities as well as to grow crops has led to many dams over rivers, changing ecological change at many places, apart from displacing people from their homes. Similarly, growth in number of houses has increased manifold, leading to increased mining of iron ore, building cement factories, cutting of trees, all leading to environmental damage, which in turn impact rains and seasons, affecting crop life cycle. Shrinking agricultural land. Agricultural land is depleting due to overuse, urbanization and migration of people to urban centers. In order to provide shelter and increase production to cater to growing population, we are losing out our agricultural land. The increasing trend of farmers selling their land to builders in order to construct more high-rises in urban areas is also changing the service profile of the nation. These factors, along with the ones discussed in section 4, apprise of the various dire consequences of increasing population not just for India but also for the world at large. If we do not take cognizance of these aftermaths of overpopulation, humans as a species may just be headed for doom. To summarize, population is growing rapidly at an alarming rate, especially in developing countries like India, as well as underdeveloped countries. Overpopulation has several adverse effects on climate, economy, society, and mental health of human beings. The deadly combination of overpopulation and overconsumption has brought Earth to a tipping point which can spell doom for all of us not too far in future. Pollutions of all kind, deforestation, global warming, shortage of all renewable resources, poverty, rising disparity between classes, human strife, rising diseases are all a byproduct of uncontrolled population rise. Corrective measures need to be taken at all possible levels to control this growing menace before it gets too late. Apart from measures initiated by individuals, groups, societal and organizations to curb this menace, government and policy makers across the globe need to come together to find a lasting solution. Apart from creating awareness, offering incentives, and teaching sustainable methods, stringent policies to reduce overpopulation and overconsumption needs to be put in place irrespective of the population index of the country. Timely checks and introduction of corrective measures can bring us back from the brink of calamity. Psychologists have a crucial role to play in bringing about a change in the desired behavior. The problem of this magnitude and diverse ramifications require a multidisciplinary approach. More resources need to be diverted for this issue, as it alone can make or mar the success of any reforms and policies on sustainability.